quite clearly as courageous in that they're engaged in hunger strikes and confronting the establishment. But what is it about what they're saying that surprises you?
Well, first, the first ones that spoke out were, of course, risking their careers as a minimum, the students, if not being locked up. Now, we've made progress in China, and you don't have the kind of persecution that you had during the Cultural Revolution. So the chances are that would not have happened. But nevertheless, to risk your entire career is a serious gamble. So that's one example of what is happening. Other people's professions could be in trouble. These people are taking considerable chances. But now that it's so widespread and it's so clearly a popular movement, I don't think there's a chance for a crackdown. I think this is irreversible. I think the leaders are making clear they wish to be conciliatory and try to defuse this crisis. So now there's safety in numbers.
Before we lose Mr. Zhang and Ms. Wei and lose...
This by. And the early indications from the hunger strikers inside are that they didn't buy what the top government leader and the top Communist Party leader had to say to them early this morning inside those buses of the hunger strikers. For the past several days and nights, this square and all of the nearby hospitals, kind of makeshift MASH units now, have been the scene of extraordinary drama. Thousands of people not just demanding democracy and freedom, but literally willing to die for it.
By the dawn's early light, you can see that some new flags have been unfurled overnight. They are on the roof of the museum overlooking the square. It is the Museum of the Chinese Revolution, and these are revolutionary flags expressing support of the students put there by the museum workers, all government employees. The students had set up their own government of sorts. They directed traffic, imposed order. Whenever scuffles broke out, they were quickly brought under control. There was a constant sense of urgency. People were always passing by in heroic poses, borrowed, it sometimes seemed, from the French Revolution. But in the medical unit at the center of the square, there was no posing at all. It had the feel of a field hospital in the middle of a fierce campaign.
I'm a medical doctor. I care very much about these students. And sometimes I feel like to cry.
The student leader from Beijing hadn't eaten anything in 6 days. He was hospitalized for exhaustion, but after 12 hours insisted on coming back to the square. How do you feel?
I wasn't feeling.
No feeling?
No feeling at all.
A cross volunteer who's been working inside for the last 4 days says the students can use all of it.
Once you lose a lot of your body fluids, you become disoriented and your mind stops, your brain stops slowing down and functioning, and then a lot of them go unconscious. And so by giving them fluids back up and IVs, then they're bringing the kids back and giving them the strength that they need to function for the body fluids.
You know, people have said here are students who are willing to die for democracy. You're a health professional. Is that too melodramatic?
No, I don't really think it's melodramatic at all. In fact, we have to really talk to the kids, even after we get IVs started, to get them to drink. I tend to be able to talk them into it, tell them that their mother would want them to drink. Some of the parents have tried to talk their kids to stop, and they don't want to. You know, they believe in what they're doing.
This is for our country, he says. Our country's future, our country's hope. The doctors here say that many of the hunger strikers have been in for medical treatment 3 and 4 times, and after they're treated, they insist on going back down to the square.
The students are very determined. If the government and leaders will not solve this problem, I don't think the people will end these things, will end this movement. They are very determined.
He's my boyfriend.
Her boyfriend has had nothing to eat or drink for 6 days. He's having heart problems now, but she says she completely supports his hunger strike.
Will you go back to the square? Will you go back? You will.
How do you feel about that as a doctor? Some of the patients should go home and rest. But if they're determined, if they insist, we respect their wishes. But if this goes on, they will be in danger. And so the ambulances make their deliveries, the doctors pile in for another pickup, and the crowds cheer. The young, who don't really understand what this is all about, and the old, who do. Talk to me about the hunger strike, she says, and the tears roll down my cheeks.
Live back at Tiananmen Square, another river of people just flowed past here shouting, "Li Peng must go." The government and the Communist Party find themselves under increasing siege, and China's own journalists are getting a taste of the free press as our special live edition of 48 Hours continues. This morning's extraordinary visit to this square by the premier of the country, Li Peng, and the Communist Party leader, Zhao Ziyang. Now, according to the government account of the visit back there with the hunger strikers, the Communist Party leader told the hunger strikers, "We came too late, we should have come before." And he promised them that if they would end their strike, the government would not end its dialogue with them. As previously reported, the early indications are the hunger strikers are saying that's not enough and they aren't buying the whole thing. Tiananmen Square, 100 acres here, the largest public square in the world. And just this week, it was filled to overflow with more than 1 million people. That's a population as large as the state of Maine. The square is surrounded by memorials to the Chinese Revolution, to the people. This People's Revolution may have begun here, but it is not ending here. And among the places caught up in the fervor now is the largest city in the country, Shanghai.
Visiting the hunger strikers is not always easy. You have to come through the crowd of spectators and friends first. They're friendly, but the big crowd can shove a camera crew around. This is how one of our arrivals looked. Once you're in, though, the students show a lot of discipline. Linked hands sometimes for crowd control, ropes sometimes, and when that isn't enough, they yell at the standees. This chant goes, "Sit down." Lots do, and that makes getting around some easier. Chinese demonstrators, it turns out, like to chant. Her chants say, "Long live students, long live the people," and to love the country is not wrong. Trying for more power, she's pointing one megaphone into another. The movement needs bigger bullhorns. This was our first visit Wednesday afternoon. The crowds kept growing.
It's just after 10:30 at night, Wednesday night, Shanghai time. We passed about 4 groups of students going home on our way back to the municipal building here. But as you can see, there are plenty left in place. There are more spectators, there are more hunger strikers than when we were here this afternoon. And their mood, as you can hear, is anything but gloomy.
They applaud, this is Thursday morning now, whenever a new group marches in, but this applause was for us, for the CBS News camera crew. The students believe very strongly that a free press in China and abroad will help their cause. They devour